Okay, recording started. So hi everyone. If anybody wants to start, wants to share something, please go ahead.
Sure, I'll go really quick. I'm in the process of moving the React Native default plugin into the SDK. The PR's already there. There's a few comments I'm working on. For some reason, it won't build in CI as of yesterday, even though it was building before, so I got to check that out. But other than that, I think it should be finalized today, and the PR has some instructions if you do have a React Native plugin on how to switch to the new implementation. Okay. Yeah, so that's that, and basically I'm just doing more and more React Native things, so continuing on that path.
Okay, great. I had a call with Francois yesterday, who also gave me like an overview of what's about to change and what we need to take care of. So I guess that'll be partly covered in your PR. All in all, it's not too much work, but yeah, there is some adaptations that need to be done if you're using the default plugin. Great, thanks, Javier. Who's next? Tarek, you want to go next?
Sure. I don't really have much to update, but currently I'm working on a task that I want to have a task like to have our advertisement also have it like pluggable. As you know, like for now today, like all our ads come from Google, and if you want like to add another ad provider, you like I think that you can't unless you develop a plugin or something. So I'm working. I'm still in the research phase, but I'm working on having a plugin system for our ad providers.
Okay, and all the configuration will be done on the plugin level?
All the configuration, all the like initialization of the SDK, showing the ad, but it's a big task. So I need to think like what types of ads do you want to support, like how to support like to how to sync with UI builder, how should we do analytics, many like it's a big task. So for now I'm on the research phase. Next week, of course, I will have much more info to update.
Yes. So Ran also talked about it in one of the recent tech talks. He said that it is upcoming in one of the next releases of the UI builder, or one of the future releases. I don't know if it's up and coming. That the advertising will be integrated into the river. So you will be able to display ads inline and obviously on the bottom of the page. And when you transition between pages, so it will be handled on the UI builder side at some point.
Yeah, so yeah, this is why I need to speak with them in order to,
But it is important to understand that one of the main challenges in integrating advertising into an app is how to create the proper relation between the content and the advertisement. So that you have advertising that is related to the content as a viewer would like to see, that is the best result for advertising. But this is not something that is trivial. It has to come from sales, etc., etc. So there are also ways to do that, but just pointing it out.
Yeah, so this is it for me.
Okay. Cool, thanks. Who's next?
I can go next if one. So one of the things I did that I told Gil to actually take a look is to actually remove the .m file from the repository, because that's it's not a file that is generic to all of us, and every time you actually set up your project, that file, it always gets marked as unchanged. So it's really annoying, because especially now that we have the generic, into the Zap Android, every time that I do changes, I need to make sure I'm not committing that file. So just to make sure, because it's not needed to be committed in any sense because it's just, your local environmental, setup that you have for yourself. So I actually created a PR which the scenario where we actually do require an M file, it would actually create on the fly a dummy M file for you. Because, okay, so simpler is the fact that when we are building from PRs through CI, it's different if we do it from SAP. When we do it from SAP, we pass the build configuration as a parameter to trigger the job. But when we do PRs, we don't have that one. That's why we needed the M file in the first place. So what I actually did is that, when we actually do require that M file, actually will create a dummy M file for us, like, in the repo, but it will not be so it will be in the git ignore. So you will not, it will not be committed anywhere. In that case, so we can actually, the next step after this, it will be to actually finally remove the fonts and take care into the font, or like actually take care of the fonts. So we could actually have a clean slate, setup once we actually do a prepared workspace. I mean, if we haven't changed a single line of code, our unchanged changes should be completely clear. I mean, if we haven't changed any lines, so there should not be any uncommitted changes at all when we actually use Rake. So that's the aim for these PRs, and hopefully Ran and Gil can take a look and see if finally fixes that, and then we can actually the reassurance that that when we are working locally, we are not committing things that we shouldn't be committed in the first place. And then, so that's for it. And then one of the things that I'm working with as well is the introducing of the new architecture for all this new UI builder work that we're doing with Alex. I actually created all these patterns for be able to actually do this repository fetching and be able to create a data factory So we've fetched the files for the new families, which is actually an XML representation instead of being hard-coded in Java. It would actually, it would actually go to the file, and then if once actually it's going to the file, it will save it automatically in a memory cache. And so the next time you actually try to fetch, it would actually, instead of going to the file again, it will just, if it's actually a valid cache, it will have it, it will take it from the memory instead. And also I actually created use cases for be able to get the component metadata, and then I just need to figure out how to actually do the consuming end of all this. So because we have all these utility classes, and there is no life cycles in those things, so I need to figure out how to do the unsubscribing part, and especially the reactive approach for the like the beginning. So when you actually call all these use case and everything. But one of the things that I need to do for this task really badly is actually add Dagger into generic. So we can actually have DI into our generic app. And because otherwise, all what I'm doing, it's heavily based on the inversion of control patterns and, and actually using DI for configuration of everything. And I really need this on the generic side. So I need to take a look, because it's not trivial, because we have Dagger in the SDK and we are exposing injecting and doing all the components creation and module injection and everything in the SDK in itself. So I want to make sure that that when we put it in the generic, it actually works as well. And the fact that we have an SDK which someone else can consume, it also makes it more tricky. So if it would be only for us, it would not be a problem. So that's pretty much what I'm working with. So I'll keep you updated with everything. So.
All right, thanks. So it seems like pretty important stuff.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Who goes next?
I can go. I'm working currently in both platforms on a nice feature to request refreshing of the screen triggered by the data source. Okay, it is useful. שנייה, רגע. שנייה, תביאו לי 2 דקות, שקט, תודה. It is needed in order, for example, to have a list of programs that comes from the data source plugin, okay? And this program should always be up to date. For example, the current playing program. So the screen needs to keep refreshing itself. Every time a program is over, a new program is starting. Okay, so basically the addition that we are adding another field on Atom feed which will be the expired date. Okay, it will be a date formatted string in which when this date will come, the component screen will load the data source again and render the screen. Okay, and then basically the data source provider, the custom data source provider, can set this date to be the time that the next program starts, and then it's kind of a loop. It loads, and then you have a new date, and then you refresh the next time, and so basically this way we achieve the goal of having a list of programs that is being refreshed. We call it mini EPG. It is something similar to what we have in the channel apps. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but we are trying to simulate the same thing with custom data source.
Yes, on the channel apps, it's basically a component that holds the current program that is running and the next program that should be run, and it's not to refresh when the program time ends to display that the next program is running and display the program that should run afterwards. Well, just one question about what you said. I'm familiar, obviously, with what you described, but you said that it would refresh the entire screen. But isn't it done by a component? So that every component that is attached to a data source will refresh itself? Or is it?
No, actually it will refresh the component, but most of the components are only symbolic. For example, the carousel is a real component.
Okay.
But list and grid are not real component, are not real UI component, okay? They are component in disguise, basically, because they are only reflecting the way that those cells will be inflated, but they are not really components. So basically, when their adapter is refreshing, the whole screen will be refreshing.
Okay.
Carousel, for example, is independent, so carousel will be refreshing by itself.
Okay.
So usually, unless you have a carousel, what you will experience is the refreshing of the whole screen.
All right. All right, thanks for the update. Anna? What about you?
So I'm working, I will be working on a thing which makes me, scratching the head. So basically we got the, at the moment we got the live screen where the list might be empty because there might be no live events at the moment. And what is happening on Android that basically we are having default cell style assigned to list or grid. So there is always taken the get from zero, the current element. This is a two-side issue that we can't put different cell styles in a list view, like iOS can with the repeat first or repeat last or whatever. But also we can't actually show empty list, and this is what I'm working on. And at the moment it's quite hard because on the view level where I would like to describe that the view is like high zero or something like that to not showing the component itself, it gives me that it got a default the data said that there is a one element in a list, so it's very, very hard to solve with the current infrastructure. Well, we'll see where I will land with that.
Just to be clear, even though nothing is displayed, it is like
so it shows empty element assigned to the reverse cell. Okay, so. It's a weird behavior.
Maybe it's something from the UI builder. I'm not familiar with that. Is anybody familiar with what Anna is describing? I'm not familiar with that. Maybe it's something that is related to how.
Ruben pretends he's not listening. I definitely know that he knows what I'm talking about.
No, I just don't know what you're talking about because I'm not familiar with these areas.
Really?
Those people are very rare in the company. Maybe only Gil, Merav a bit, Sergey that left us. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, so if I will have any question, I will ask you or Merav. Other thing which I will be probably shortly jump into is I'm going back to the React Native cell, which probably I will have to ask Javier from Miami to help me with because I'm not sure does his pull request has been accepted to merge the what was the name? General default plugin.
In the beginning, you weren't here in the beginning. He was the first to update. That he's still working on it. It's not been merged yet.
It's not been merged yet. Okay.
No, but it should be soon. I just want people to test it. But so far, I've gotten comments from Francois, which is he's not an Android developer, so yeah, I need people that have. Yeah, I know yours too, but it was more. your comments was about adding comments,
yeah.
which I did, by the way. Anyway, so we'll see. It should be merged soon. I would just like somebody besides my team to actually run their implementation, modified in the way that I describe in the PR description. But anyway. We'll see. I'll wait until maybe the next React Native Tech Talk, which should be this Thursday, right? So
yes.
By then, I really want to have it merged. If earlier, better.
The EU team, we've got a few implementations of React Native into our app, so we're probably going to be your next candidates for guinea pigs. For testing.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, I'll reach out and we'll see how we could get that tested.
Sure, thank you. So this is me, thank you.
All right, thank you, Anna. Thanks, Javier. All right, we have Atanas. Guys, do you want to share?
One second, hold on. But before I forget, that I wanted to ask you before and I forgot. And actually, it was a very good point. This is for Gil, if you're there. Or for anyone. So how are we going to deal with when we release new components or new families on UI Builder, as they are coming from JSON? How are we doing with people who actually haven't updated their applications, which contains the SDK, which contains the support for those new cells?
You mean
well, if you don't read okay, I think
so you're a user and you have your app and then you haven't updated it, and then like 1 month pass and then someone push new family with a new SDK which is supports, but the JSON is coming from UI Builder and you haven't had those cells.
I think there's something like minimum SDK or something like that.
You mean if someone wants to change an app that is on the air to another family?
No, I meant like, okay, so you have, for example, like a let's say with a simple case, with a family, you have family one, you have an app which is using family one, and then a month pass and you actually add a new component which is called potato component, and then you add that component in UI Builder. So you have in UI Builder the selectable potato component. But what happens is the user who actually had your application a month ago didn't update to actually have the SDK which contains the support of the potato component. So actually from the reverse would actually come a potato component which the user who actually haven't updated the application doesn't have support for. So how would actually solve that?
Okay, so for that we have it's not such a good thing to do always, but we have the what's the name? Can you help me? When we set the minimum version that can be running. Yes.
Deprecation.
This is one thing we can do. We can think about a way to handle from now.
I would suggest, if I could suggest, I would suggest a default component which says update your version or something like that.
There is a deprecation.
We have a way, yeah.
Or like with a new family, you know, for example, I don't know. So let's say like it also can happen with a new family. Or anything that we need in the UI builder, which requires updates in the SDK, and we haven't forced the users to actually update to the latest version. It was a pretty good comment. Actually, I don't know.
I think there's a difference if the changes in the family that the app is actually using, or to a general family. But
like a general, like you add a new cell style, for example. So, or you create a new family, entire new family.
If the app is not using it, I don't think it's a problem.
No, but if the app is using it, so.
If the app is using it, then what Gil is saying is that you would have to deprecate the app.
Yeah, but we don't. Do we have a method to do that now today?
Yes.
User might not reinstall it, you know, and then you have to inform user that he have to upgrade his version. That's the thing.
Exactly. So guys, maybe you're not familiar with, there is a feature of deprecation on the CMS. So when the app loads, there is a way to instruct the CMS. The app checks versus the version that is written on the CMS. And if the app is lower than the version indicated in the CMS.
What if we don't use the CMS?
It's for loading the account. It's not for loading the content. It's when the app is set up, there is a check that is done to verify that the version of the app meets with what the CMS would like it to be. So that's the deprecation feature. And if it's not, then there is a UI that pops up and says, you cannot use it to download. The play or the app.
He's opening a bag of chips.
They didn't hear anything that I said.
No.
So anyway, yeah, this is handled on the CMS side. What's going on? It's not coming from us. Atanas, is that you, maybe? Somebody who's not muted.
What's the sound? I'm not muted, but like I don't know.
A bag of chips being opened. So maybe if you could mute.
It's not us.
Never mind.
The only
Anyway,
healthy
deprecation is handled on the CMS side.
But the thing is, what Anna was saying, what if you don't use the CMS?
You don't use the CMS for content, but you have to load the app through the CMS.
Okay. So you always have to have the CMS anyway. So, okay. Yeah.
So
to summarize, we got two things here. Whenever you want to use the new cell style, and you need to re-release your app, and this is something what UI Builder we need to inform you that you can't, for example, use the new cell style, right? And the second thing is inform the end user to update the app.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah, it was because it was a question from one of the PMs, and it's like, oh, actually, I don't have a good answer. So,
yes,
okay.
That is the deprecation. I just don't know how often that will happen. We'll have to see.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting, but it was something that I wanted to know.
All right. Who else? Gil, do you have something?
Yes, I'll be quick. I have. I'm still working on stabilize the structure. There are a few things that I plan to do to make it faster and better, which I will do, I guess, along with the other tasks that I'm doing for the next 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know. Another thing is, sorry, our servers are started to HTTPS protocol. So currently I'm working on changing the all the calls that we do to our servers to HTTPS. And I'm working on fixing some stuff on Family One. I saw that I was requested from the US team to assist them. I saw that there are many things that are not according to the style guide. So I'm fixing them. That's it on my side.
Right, cool, thanks. I think we have just Hani and Adnath and Mirav if you have something. So guys, Adnath, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a very weird lock that is apparently being locked by codec. So I'm trying to, I'm working on the inline Squadio player. And the player works well with an activity, but it doesn't exactly work very well with the view. And our inline infrastructure doesn't make it easy to use activity lifecycle events. So if the activity goes in the background, if the app goes to the background and then it comes back to the foreground, the player stops playing, like it stops displaying stuff. And if I do it again, it crashes. So I'm gonna post the crash here. So it's not even the crash. This message is displayed shortly before the crash. So.
Adnath, we have only 2 minutes, so maybe it's best to just publish it on the Android channel and.
Well, this is the most interesting thing I have to say. So.
Observer died quick. I got it. Okay, that's why you published it.
Everything else is boring.
All right, cool. Okay.
What do you think, Javier, it is? What?
It's not RxJava?
Sorry, me?
Yeah. What do you think Observer died? What do you think it is?
Quickly, do something, anything.
I don't know. I have no idea right now. So.
Did you try to Google it?
Quickly.
You could help.
Quickly, anyone, anything.
But by the way, yeah, I actually realized that we're using RxJava 1 on the SDK. And so with actually the things that I was doing with the use cases, I was actually pushing RX2 in the generic one. So
are you migrating to RxJava 2?
No, not migrating. So I will leave the SDK to use RxJava 1, and then I will just use RxJava 2 on the generic part for now. So I don't touch the SDK. So I know, Ruben, you got a comment.
Can you do both of them?
Yeah, I think you cannot have them both. I think I was trying to do it. You can have only one of them. It happened with one of the libraries that we're using, JSON parser. One of the things that they updated from some version to RxJava 2, and it had conflicts with our SDK that had one. So I don't think you can have both.
I haven't tried to run it, but at least it built.
Seriously, because the 2 breaks everything. They deprecated all the objects that they had.
Yeah, but the thing is, they come in a different namespace. So it's called RxJava 2. So it's not even the same.
Yeah, but.
So it should not. In reality, I think that's the reason. I remember Jack Wharton actually suggested the same thing in the past. So to not have conflicts between branches.
I think it was crashing back then on one of the internal implementations, but
I don't know. When I have a running, like when I haven't tried to run it, but when I actually run it, I'll let you know. So,
yeah, guys, we're almost out of time. Sorry. So just need to finish the round. Hani, do you have anything you wanted to update?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on a Facebook plugin. I believe it's your thing. I added 2 new configuration. One of them is if the Facebook login is mandatory, and the second one is if it should the user should log into Facebook when app start. And yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And you also can customize the view, the layout of the login, play in a video, and stuff like that. It's very nice.
Right, cool. You have anything? Nothing special. Okay. So just one thing before we leave. I publish every week. We record this session and I publish it on YouTube, but I have only one view each week. Is that me testing it? I don't publish it in the Android channel because I actually thought that it's not needed because you know that there is a channel, but I might need to start uploading to the Android channel as well a link. I noticed that they do it in iOS and on the JavaScript guild, so I might do it again. So if you missed any of the last 2 months of sessions and you really feel like going back, everything is there. So just the fact that I'm not uploading it to the channel doesn't mean it's not there, but there are very little views, just mine, I think.
Because everyone's in the session.
Everyone is in the session, but some people are not. Dor is not here, for example, and there are others. So just if you want to catch up, I don't put topics on the name, so it's just the date of the Tech Talk. But at least if you know that you missed one and you want to know what went down, so it's still there. It's still in the channel. So I'll publish the channel, and I'll publish this one and start publishing it on a weekly basis. So that's it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.